this is why I dislike most slogans. A lot of them are dishonest or inaccurate. In service of winning some cause, or owning our ideological opposition, we want to be right without having to be right. Because people are capable of seeing, in particular, the negative patterns associated among groups, fatigue and resentment toward negative behavior will logically scale differently and may fall unfairly against individuals who are superficially associated with a particular behavior. This is the price that the quote-unquote good ones pay by virtue of how they look and by the behavior of people who look like them. And the markup of this costly transaction is enabled by our predictable but hasty reluctance to extend grace in consideration of character and situation. To be fair, one of the reasons this reluctance happens, whether it's right or wrong, is because people act carelessly too often. In fact, taking race out of the equation, there are simply way too many people conducting themselves cluelessly in public. In light of this reality, I don't begrudge anyone being on guard upon first meeting me. But on those rare occasions that someone's defensive disposition becomes an offensive one, my own diplomatic but firm resolve will resist accordingly. This is a universal right of all people, but it doesn't give anyone carte blanche to act a violent fool. Things, as far as our screens tell us, have gotten so bad, people simply don't have the time or patience to give strangers the benefit of the doubt. And by the way, this is another tendency that is not race-specific. I'm not picking on a single group here. The out-group fatigue and reluctance to extend olive branches is what our so-called fatigued neighbors have in common. It should go without saying that not everyone thinks in the way I'm about to describe. But if the quiet part behind some of this black fatigue mode of thinking could be given voice, it would sound something like this. I don't like it when people steal, but I really hate it when black people steal because it's almost always them, and I'm beyond tired of it. So let's roll with that idea. I don't believe in running away from scary truths. I prefer to run at them and see where it leads. I don't enjoy saying that black people, frankly speaking, account for a disproportionate amount of our petty theft and violent street crime. This is not a debatable point. And it's a good thing that people can express it more safely online because we have to air our dirty laundry. The internet has allowed this to happen, but our approach does matter, and there's always a smarter way to do the wash. This black fatigue that everyone's talking about is an unfortunate label, because while people think it's pithy and precise, it's actually pretty imprecise. But aside from maybe ghetto fatigue, I don't have a better reactionary shorthand, and I don't care to develop one. Black fatigue is here, and we're stuck with it, I suppose. But when taken literally and considered for more than a few seconds, you might see how black fatigue manages to be less forgiving, less discriminatory, and less friendly to black people as a whole than even our nuclear N-word. Because even the N-word, while its Spanish and Latin root points to black, it doesn't explicitly say black in our very own language like black fatigue does. As acidic as the N-word is and sounds, it's actually a more nuanced euphemistic dodge. This point is kind of important. This is not a justification for nigger or the bigots who use it, but an attempt to show how black fatigue as a shorthand is intentionally or unintentionally a bolder form of racism, a word I'm very careful to avoid overusing.
Met another fellow from Minnesota yesterday. Big guy, sheriff, I think. I liked him too.
We're very friendly people.
No, that's not it. Pretty unfriendly, actually. But it's the way you're unfriendly. How you're so polite about it. Like you're doing me a favor.
Well, this has been enjoyable.
Words communicate in two ways, how we see them and how we hear them. By modifying the root, and particularly the sound of its Latin and Spanish roots, The N-word, at least, takes a half step away from the word black. It distances itself, phonetically, the way it sounds, from the word black. It may be why arguments have and are made by some defenders of this friendly term that nigger doesn't mean all black people. They were different words for black that referred to different kinds of black people. I don't think that's the most elegant distinction in the world, but at least it's some distinction, some attempt to acknowledge that all the bad shit associated with it doesn't apply to everyone. And if you follow this logic, the logic that tries to differentiate ninjas from black people, you can't also say that the black and black fatigue doesn't mean what the words themselves say. The N-word may have a much longer evil history, but it does provide a shade of nuance. I think that's my first pun for today. Speaking of jokes, here's a brother that launched his career off of this very distinction.
It's like a civil war going on with black people. And there's two sides. It's black people and there's niggas. And niggas have got to go. Every time black people want to have a good time, ignorant ass niggas f*** it up.
Black fatigue as a term doesn't bother making such distinctions. And who has the time to do that anyway? That would require thinking, and then talking about the things we thought about. And fuck that, right? Of course, in communicating, it's important to get to the point. But the point we're getting to has to be the right point. Otherwise, for all of our impatience, we haven't saved any time at all. We've merely arrived somewhere quickly and misinformed. And our culture almost idolizes this mindset. Confronted by any length of thought, people proudly say things like, "Too long, didn't read." And to them, I think, too bad, learn to read. That's one of mine, by the way. If you don't have the time to read or think, or something is lengthier than you'd like, how do you have the time to GAF and respond in the first place? I actually think that a certain amount of forethought ought to be the suggested retail price of admission to any kind of discourse. Because it's a rare person that can say something that is insightful in the span of a few words. Writing something that is succinct and precise requires a bit of skill and consideration. Don't try this if your capabilities are limited to TikTok, shorts, and emojis. Admittedly, the spirit behind black fatigue can be either racist or non-racist depending on the mindset or context of the person saying it. But words mean things, and have a meaning of their own regardless of our subjective intentions behind it. This ambiguity gives language the advantage of flexibility, but the disadvantage of misuse and imprecision.
Words.
And this is where communication usually breaks down. The intent of the person using the words versus the words themselves.
My back.
The apologetic phrase, "I didn't mean it that way," comes to mind. A lot of folks, myself included, disliked the Black Lives Matter slogan. I won't get into it, but I still don't like it, and I think it's dumb for the same reasons that most slogans are dumb. They're too short to be precise, which means they invite upon arrival immediate resistance or misunderstanding. But I suspect, and I'm guessing here, that a lot of people who objected to Black Lives Matter as a movement and label did so on the grounds that it was racially exclusive, and that it radically overgeneralized a complex situation by the careless application of the word black. And with that, I agree. So if someone takes this very reasonable exception to the linguistic imprecision behind the Black Lives Matter slogan, but that same person has no qualms or hesitation with black fatigue on similar grounds, I think that's some convenient dissonance, and you might want to take a look at it. I've considered the counter-argument here as well. Someone could argue by saying, well, Black Lives Matter points to the exaggerated problem of police brutality, and it's wrong because it suggests that black people are its exclusive victims. But black fatigue, that's a real problem. You could argue that. But if you consider these two ideas together, that is, accepting the black and black fatigue as constructive, while objecting to the black and Black Lives Matter, I think you'll find that dog won't hunt, and that you're exaggerating your preferred concerns qualitatively, if not quantitatively, in the same way that some of your ideological opponents do. Because to explain this more clearly, all black people are not the serious cause of anyone's fatigue. Just like all black people are not the exclusive innocent victims of police violence when it happens. If you can see one exaggeration and convenient exception, you should certainly be able to see the other. Getting back to dogs, I have no dog in this fight, but if I did, it would certainly fight better than this.
What are you doing?
That's how I roll.
So the Black Fatigue slogan was born with the same original sin that a lot of slogans are. But I'll make no further campaign against it, beyond expressing my personal distaste for it. It's here and it's dumb, because we suck. I'm not calling for anyone to self-censor, and it doesn't make someone a terrible person for using it. But I personally will try and remember to restrict my use of it as a rhetorical bait. I might refer to it when appropriate, but considering my misgivings toward it, I probably won't use it without somehow qualifying it first. Had we been given another term besides black fatigue, one that had been able to quickly convey by itself and in itself the concept of some black people, or even too many black people, it could have galvanized more consideration among the racial population that it's isolating. But we didn't get a creative, smarter phrase, because like a lot of things these days, that would have been too hard.
Aww.
Black fatigue makes a better hashtag, because hashtags don't have to be precise or right. They just have to be easy. And again, this is why I dislike most slogans. A lot of them are dishonest or inaccurate, in service of winning some cause, or owning our ideological opposition. We want to be right without having to be right.
We was just looking for some cocktail napkins.
Where? Under her dress?
You're impossible.
You're easy.
And this is just another little insidious way that our cultural decline continues, imperceptibly, starting at the individual level of thought, or lack of thought. The best, rarest slogans don't sacrifice clarity for speed or controversy. Anytime you take away words, you are narrowing thought, and you're making things duller. If you don't have the patience or time to be reasonably precise and responsible with your words, there is an alternative to putting yourself out there.
Here's another idea that's going to be very controversial. You could shut the up.
So, black fatigue. Yes, it's quick. Yes, it's easy. But so is a Slurpee. And neither is good for you. Somehow in our current year, with the help of algorithms, we've managed to popularize a new term that is in some ways even worse than nigger. So to restate this one last time, by calling it black fatigue, this label itself is making the association between a host of bad behaviors and skin color. And it's casting it on black people in general. Black itself is the problem according to this term. Black fatigue, by its own words, says that all black people are the same, because black fatigue makes black the determining factor. And people who use this phrase may not agree that all black folks are the same. And I don't believe that most people think that. But that is the implication of those two words. I think it's unreasonable to use this phrase and not expect any black person to think that you are talking about them specifically. So this is not a very helpful or precise addition to public discourse. Perhaps we should try noticing that. And try noticing that our polite, modern, largely left-wing sensibilities have helped erase character by rationalizing, and in so doing, condoning all matter of unacceptable behavior based on race and low expectations. And while you're noticing that, try noticing how this new, largely right-wing propagated shorthand of black fatigue also erases character by considering black people categorically inferior for their color, regardless of anything else.